Hello, amazing entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 366, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/366. In today's episode, I'm helping you prepare your business for the end of year. Now, as we come into end of year, there's lots and lots of things to think about, including getting ready for the holidays, whether you're going to be taking time off or not. Will you be doing any launching or promotions over that time? Do you participate in all of the sales? There's so many decisions to make. We want to make sure that we have a clear plan of what you are going to be doing for your business and how you're going to make sure that you implement and make sure that it's all taken care of without burning yourself out, feeling like you don't get a break, and starting to resent your business. So we've got lots to cover. Let's dive on in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Now, the first thing I want to say is if you haven't yet grabbed the show notes for today's episode, make sure that you keep note of the link, tashcorbin.com/366. And that is because I have a brilliant little end of year plan template for you that's going to help you put all of this into place and make sure that you're all set with a really clear strategy. The second thing is I'm doing an Ask Me Anything live event where you are able to ask me any of your questions about end of year, getting all set with your plan, sales, Black Friday, discounting, whether you're going to work over the holidays, whether you can launch over the holidays, all of those sorts of questions. If you've got questions about your specific niche, about your specific business, I'm doing a big Ask Me Anything event. And so I'll put a link to where you can pop your questions in over with the show notes at tashcorbin.com/366. And that's where you'll also be able to grab the little plan template as well. So the big four things that I want to cover in today's episode are: will you be launching or promoting anything over the holidays? How to decide and what to do. Number 2 is, are you going to be taking time off? Number 3 is, do you participate in all the sales and the big events that come up at the end of the year? And then number 4 is how to make sure you've actually got a plan in place that you can implement without robbing yourself of enjoying your holiday period if you choose to have some holidays. So let's start with the first one, because this is sort of the big rocks that we need to make some decisions about first and foremost. Number 1, are you going to launch or promote anything over the holiday period? Now, can you make sales over the holiday period? Most people can. Of course, it depends on your niche. It depends on how active your audience are going to be online. It depends on whether your audience are reading their emails over this period of time as well. Do they actually want to participate in a 5-day challenge between Christmas and New Year? Now, in most cases, we can make something work. Absolutely. But the first question we need to actually ask is, do you want to be launching anything over the holidays? Do you need to be launching anything over the holidays? Does it need to be a live event, or could you do something a little automated? And actually, the holidays, I find I do still have quite good engagement. And I think particularly because my niche between Christmas and New Year and even a more expanded holiday period, my niche, that's actually like just hanging out on socials for funsies. That's, I'm thinking about my goals and my plans for the new year. So I might grab my little planner out and start plotting some things in. I know quite a few people have said to me that they love binging this podcast over the holidays as well, because there's episodes that they miss throughout the year or they might have fallen behind. And so this is a great time for them to get in that sort of space where they're getting inspired and they're getting some practical strategy. And so they can really play with what they want to be doing in the new year in their business. So it really does depend a little bit on your niche and a little bit on how well you can actually get in front of and access your audience. But I also just want you to consider, what is it that you actually want? And if you were making the money, if you'd already hit your income goal for this year, for example, would you be feeling the pressure or the pinch to launch something over the holidays? would that actually be something that you wanted to do? And if it's not necessarily something that you want to do, but it's something that you feel like you need to do, it's not too late to get yourself sorted before the holidays so that you can actually take that time off and enjoy yourself. And for a lot of people, I find the final quarter of the year, and we're into October now, so we're into quarter 4. I find for a lot of people, the final quarter, they almost start writing it off now, like, oh, well, it's almost end of year, and then it's holidays, and then so it's going to be really hard. But they also really want to make money, and they want to have an abundant end of year. And so you're trying to hold to almost conflicting beliefs at the same time. And I think people spend so long undecided about what they're going to be doing towards the end of the year, and I'll deal with it when I get to it, that they could have actually made a plan at the start of October, got themselves into gear, got that nailed, got some cash in the door, and actually set the intention of, I'm going to finish on the 10th of December or whenever you want to finish, and feel confident and comfortable to do that because they took care of their business and they didn't wait until the holiday rush or Black Friday sales to make a decision about what they were going to do or to be able to bring in the cash that they needed to bring in. So I understand Black Friday sales is a time when everyone's out looking for a bargain and all that kind of stuff, but it's also when your competitors, everyone's out there trying to make a buck, trying to compete for the dollar. October is actually generally a quieter time for promotions and launches. And so you don't necessarily need to leave it till it's too late. And this has actually been something that I've been really excited for in the current planning posse, because in the current planning posse, we did our quarter 4 planning at the end of September. And for a lot of people, they mapped out what their strategy was going to be. And it involved getting their launch done and dusted in October so that then November they could have a little play and dabble with their Black Friday sales and other kind of, we're getting into the holidays kind of stuff. But for most of them, they're not relying on or waiting for December to decide what's going to be happening in terms of promos and discounts and strategies and launches. And so just even having that quarter 4 mapped out and knowing what your goal is. If your goal is to be done by the middle of December, then make a plan for the first 10 weeks of the quarter to make sure that you nail it. And I think the great thing as well for the planning posse is that this is our 4th quarter together, having done our quarterly planning every quarter. So most people are actually quite adept at this now. They're quite skilled at this now, and they recognize and know how to structure and plan and map things out for themselves in a way that they know they can really nail. And so when this comes out, this podcast episode comes out, you'll still be able to grab the planner for next year. So I will put a link to that in the show notes as well. That's not for this to be a promo for that, but I think for a lot of people, they recognize that they're not managing themselves and their time effectively, but that realization often hits towards the end of the year. Oh wow, look, I had all these things on my plan. I've completely dropped the ball on most of these things, and jamming it all into November and December is not a fun thing to do either. And so we really just want to, number one, make a decision about what your launch plan is and what your strategy is overall for the quarter. And do it from a space of, well, in an ideal world, how would this play out? Rather than expecting everything's going to go poorly, expecting everything is going to need you to be hustling and, at it all December long. And then, I'll come up with a sales strategy or something at that point in time. Let's be a little more considered. Let's be a little bit more strategic, and then get to the point where you can make the decision about whether you want to launch over the holidays or not from a space of abundance rather than a space of desperation. Because regardless of whether you launch over the holidays or not, the more desperate the energy is and the more pressure you put on it to perform and the more pressure you put on yourself to perform, the less likely it is to create the result you're looking for anyway. So something that I've done with one of someone inside one of my programs, they were talking about, oh, what do I do over the holiday period? I don't want to be working, but I do want to schedule up all my social content and take care of all of that. Surely I could be selling some things. And so what we ended up doing was actually going through some of her older offers, some of her pre-recorded masterclasses or things that she offered as paid masterclasses throughout the year or in previous years, looking at low-cost self-study courses, things that haven't had any airtime this year because she's been focused on launching her signature membership and selling her VIP services and packages because they're the big income generators. And so little things that she created previously, and we'll talk about this in other podcast episodes, but that were actually derailing her from making good income in the past because everything was low ticket and everything was short term. Those things this year, she's had a much more abundant year. She's had far more income because of this structured focus on signature membership and VIP work. And then it also means that all these little fiddly things haven't had the airtime that they had in previous years and haven't been derailing her cash flow as they did in previous years. But they could have some airtime over the holidays. So what we ended up doing was scheduling out like a spotlight on each of those offers over the holiday period, and the posts that go around it and the emails that would go around it, what would go out in the newsletter, all that kind of stuff. That's all now mapped out and scheduled in advance. And that's all of December and the first half of January taken care of. And so she'll be able to enjoy school holidays. It's extended school holidays, summer holidays in Australia, Southern Hemisphere. So it's our summer. So she'll be able to actually enjoy that time, and we'll likely see a bunch of sales ticking over, little teeny ones, right? Ticking over during the holiday period. But like, what an abundant way to take the break over that period of time and celebrate and reward herself for a much better year and a much more strategic year. And still be able to get those sales in the door, have some money ticking in, and membership is still, people renewing their monthly membership anyway. There's just so much more security and certainty over that period of time. And so those sales are like abundance and play money rather than there needing to be this pressure anymore. So maybe you could also have a look at, well, what are the things that don't get as much airtime throughout the year? Hopefully it's not your main things, right? And can you give them the spotlight for a little while, but do everything automated. Do it all pre-scheduled. Allow people to self-check out. Make sure it's self-study stuff. So that's a really great way to still have sales coming in over the holidays, but without that pressure and without it needing you to actually do a launch where you're completely present with that launch experience as well. Okay, so that's question one. Are you going to launch something over the holidays? Question number two. Are you taking time off? Now, having taken an extended break of usually 3 weeks to a month, every Christmas holiday since 2018 now, I can 10 out of 10 recommend taking time off. Now, it might not be the time of year for you. I am a Christmas fanatic, not the Christian/religious kind, more the pagan kind. I'm just here for the food, the presents, and the tree. But I adore Christmas. It's one of my favorite times of year. You may have picked up on that before. And so for me, I finish my year at the end of Tashmas. Tashmas runs from the 1st to the 12th of December, 12 days of Tashmas. And so then once that's done, I've got a couple of calls, usually 13th, 14th of December, to be final call for the year for my different programs. And then I'm off. I'm done. This year, I'm even pausing the Facebook communities that are attached to my programs so that there's no admin responsibility for those either. We're keeping the Heart Centered group going over that time, and I've got a couple of team members who are like switching out times of when they're going to be doing admin stuff. We may do a little pausey for a few days. We'll see how we go. But I can 10 out of 10 recommend having actual proper time off. And it doesn't mean that you completely disappear or you're not allowed to be on socials. Like, I'm still on social media over the holiday period because I use social media for social things. I use it to catch up with friends. I use it to see what everyone's up to. And so, like, I'm still about, I suppose, but there's no pressure to be about. I remember last holidays, I couldn't remember where I'd left my phone and it died. And it took me 3 days to actually be like, oh, I probably should go and get my phone and find it and charge it. And I discovered it was in where I'd been wrapping presents. But it was just such a lovely feeling that, like, for 3 days, my phone was dead and I didn't know where it was and I didn't really care. And there was no pressure to be there because I knew that my socials were being taken care of by my scheduled posts. And so I don't recommend that you have no content going up on socials. I don't recommend that you don't have an email going out to your mailing list, right? I still recommend that those things happen. Just pre-schedule them all in advance. And maybe it's a little less content than normal. Maybe it's a little few less emails than normal. That's fine, right? But just like still have some presence. And instead of everything being focused on selling things over the holidays, maybe all of your focus is on like reminding people of all your great freebies and growing your mailing list, or it's just like really fun games and fun things for people to engage with over the holiday period. Like, it doesn't have to be like serious and structured and completely optimized all of the time. You can absolutely experiment and have some fun with it. Something that I love to do, like I make a thing about the fact that I'm not on socials and I'm not in my business over that period. I have Tashbot, which is literally like a photo of myself sitting at my desk where I've hand drawn a robot mask over myself. And Tashbot is like present on my socials. So like, and it says beep boop. And so I'm like making it really clear to people, like, you're not going to get a reply from me immediately right now. But it's still fun. Like, you can have fun with it. And I don't generally set like even an out of office auto reply, but I will in my regular newsletters just remind people that I'm actually not about and past Tash wrote this email. And so you can make a lot of fun of it and just take the pressure off. I also know people who have like scheduled days where they do work in their business and they just like make it every third or fourth day over the holiday period. And they give themselves a little timer of 2 hours. Okay, I've got 2 hours to check in on my biz. Here's the top 3 things that I need to get done. They get those things done and then they just go back to their holiday, and that's cool as well. I think it's important to just realize that like there's no hard and fast rule. I do recommend taking some time off, just mostly because it's so fun. And if you haven't taken time off for a while, you absolutely deserve it and you're allowed to. And also, I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to be responsive and be available all of the time. But you can do that in a really boundaried way. And the holidays is a great way to practice. It's a great time to practice. So make a decision about whether you're going to take time off or not. And then if you make the decision now, nice and early, then you can plan for it. You can prepare for it. So you can schedule up a couple of times in your calendar where you're going to schedule and batch up all the content that you're going to do over the holidays and just get it all set up and sorted in advance. Then you know it's taken care of and you aren't convincing yourself, oh yeah, I'll do that on my last day. And then you don't get it done. And so then the next day you actually have to do some work. And then the next day you have to do some work. And it just all gets fuzzy. I don't like the fuzziness. So make a decision. Try and set yourself up to be able to actually implement that decision and stick with it. And look after future you. Holiday you's going to want to have fun, I think. And she deserves it. They deserve it. You deserve it. Okay, number 3. Do you participate in all the sales? And this is probably the most common question that I get asked is about like, do I have to do a Black Friday thing? Do I have to do a Cyber Monday thing? what do I sell? How do I sort this out? I don't really know what I'm doing. And so I am pretty sure I have an old podcast episode on Black Friday sales or like sales and stuff. So I'll link to that if I do in the show notes. But I just want to say a few things. Number one, we have Black Friday to Cyber Monday, happens in November. It is a time where people are online in a shopping mood. Generally, it's mostly for low ticket stuff, right? People are spending money on a lot of different things. So Black Friday, a lot of people do their Christmas shopping or their holiday shopping. Black Friday, a lot of people do, grabbing tools or templates or kits or those sorts of things because they are generally, highly discounted at that point in time. I adore checking out the AppSumo sales because I do love buying little techie tools and special things like that. And Udemy has a big sale as well. So I know a lot of people go and scroll through Udemy and find some really cool courses to have a play with. And, things, ideas and fun things they want to learn. That's how, actually, I decided I wanted to learn a few different modalities and learn some more marketing strategy stuff. I just went scrolling through the Udemy sales one year during Black Friday, and then through that process found a couple of really cool providers who did like certifications and accreditations, like outside of Udemy, of course. You can't do that for $12. But it was really cool. And yeah, I learned some more stuff around Instagram strategy, and I got a little bit excited to play with it a bit more. I learned some stuff around SEO, got excited to play with some of it a little bit more. So, people are a little bit in a buying mood, but in my experience, they're not looking for high ticket offers that have like $20 off, right? They're looking for significant discounts. And people's inboxes are very busy. People's news feeds are very busy. It's the most expensive time to advertise on Meta. It's the most expensive time to advertise with Google. I don't do any paid advertising over that time. I just leave my list growth ads running if they don't spike too much. If they start to spike, I pause them over that period. And so, there's a lot of competition for the dollar at that point in time. But there's also extra opportunities to promote. So we do Black Friday to Cyber Monday inside the Heart Center community, and there's like extra promo opportunities there. So have a think about whether you want to do it or not. You don't have to. It's definitely not something that you have to subscribe to. People get real judgy with each other, like on both sides. It's like, oh, it's such an American thing. You can't do it. And then you shouldn't. And then it's like, oh, you're leaving money on the table if you don't do it. And you should. And everyone has an opinion. No one's opinion counts except your own, right? You get to decide whether you want to participate or not. You get to decide whether you want to play with it or not. You get to decide what you want to put on sale. So just remember you're in the driver's seat and you're allowed to do what you want to do. That's fine. Also, statistically, you are more likely to have your birthday in the last quarter of the year. So you might have a birthday coming up if you're one of those people. I'm not. Mine's in March. We also have Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, end of year, last day of work. There's just so many things going on. Then you've got in the new year, and then you've got the Lunar New Year. There's so much going on, right? So I just want you to remember there will always be a reason to have a sale. There will always be a special occasion / event that you can attach yourself to. It's Mental Health Week, Mental Health Month this month. It's Movember next month. It's International Taco Day on some random day in the first half of the year, right? There's always days. There's always things. And so if you are approaching it through the lens of, this is my one and only opportunity, just take a breath. There are always reasons. Pay attention to how it feels. If you're participating in all of these sales and events and things because you think you're never going to get another chance, next year's Black Friday will be here before you know it. Look at how quickly this one came. And so, you're allowed to just, take a chill pill and not worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. If you do decide to participate in Black Friday or having sales or specials or whatever it might be, then just take a little bit of a moment to consider for something that you're going to do a significant discount on, when was the last time someone bought it at full price? and how would they feel if they saw that it was now on special? So for me, for example, I've just closed up a launch of the Takeoff program, and doors are closed now anyway, so I wouldn't open doors for this. But I've just closed up the launch of a Takeoff program. Doors are closed until next year. There are a bunch of people who are still paying their payment plans at full price. I would never discount it and risk having those people see that, right? Like, no, I wouldn't want them to feel that way. I don't want to train my audience to wait for sales on the Takeoff program. And doors are closed at the moment anyway, right? So would not do that. And I would need to be very considerate of the people who've paid full price. Similarly, if you, for example, have a VIP package and you've sold it. This actually happened to me in 2015. It was actually someone that I was like quite close friends with, and I knew I wanted to get a new website done. And so I'd been having talks with her about getting my website done. And in early November, middle of November, I was like, right, okay, great. And I paid full price to her to get my website built from her. And then it was like 10 days later, we hadn't even started the project. I just paid the invoice. And 10 days later, she did 70% off website builds for Black Friday. And I felt ripped off. I felt betrayed. I felt like I'd missed out. I felt punished for being someone who had a conversation, came up with an agreed project, and paid their bills straight away, instead of being someone who dilly-dallied. That project did not end well. I'm still a bit miffed about it. I just realised. Got some things to put on my forgiveness list today. So think about the way that you're making people feel. Like, also, that person being my friend, I would have absolutely put an ad for them on my final website if I hadn't been so ripped off. I would have shouted from the rooftops and thanked them everywhere. Now, you've got to be mindful of these things, right? And I never sent that person a website client ever again, because I raised it with them and they were like, if you bought a pair of jeans and then 2 weeks later you saw that they had been discounted, you don't get to go and get them at the discounted rate. And I was like, yeah, but I would have been wearing those jeans for 2 weeks and I would have got some use out of them. And this isn't a $100 pair of jeans here. This is a $5,000 website that I could have got for under $2,000 if I'd just dilly-dallied a little. And that makes me feel really weird and uncomfortable. And so, yeah, it didn't go well. Anyway, and I don't recommend that person. I've never talked about them again. So, they made their choice. And so I think all of that could have been avoided if they had just considered, number one, planning out what they were going to put on their Black Friday special in advance. Number two, telling people who were considering it at full price, hey, it's going to be on special for Black Friday. If they had said to me, it's going to be on special for Black Friday and I'm doing 70% off, I would have said, here's my money now. I'll pay up front in full for the Black Friday special price. And what else can I buy, right? I probably still would have spent the same amount with them, but for a lot more things. And I would have been telling everyone who was looking for a website, hey, I just booked in to get my website done by this person because it's going to be 70% off on Black Friday. If you want to get your website redone, go do it, right? So, very interesting to consider how people will feel when they see it on special. Yeah. So that's number one. So when was the last time you made a full price sale? And has there been enough time? I'm not saying you can't discount something ever, but has there been enough time that the people who purchased it before feel like they've got reasonable use or reasonable value between now and then? So if I did decide to discount the Takeoff program, by the way, for example, then I'd not had anyone join at full price for 6 months, then I might consider doing a little discount for people who join in a very short period of time, because anyone who joined 6 months ago, they have been having live calls with me every month. They've been working through the modules. They've grown their business. They've made sales, right? And so would they wish that they had waited? Well, no, they wouldn't, because they're already getting results now. And the sooner you get started in the takeoff program, the more calls you get to come into, the faster that you're making sales, the faster that you're getting clients. And so people wouldn't have the same sort of regrets if there had been that amount of time and they'd had a lot of use out of the program between the time that they purchased and the time that it went on sale. I wouldn't do like a huge discount, of course, right? Like, because it is my signature program anyway, but I would consider that like the time that it's been and the use that people have had. So another example of this would be, for example, with my 30-day business blast, it automatically goes into the Udemy sales. So generally but if people buy it through the Udemy sales, I get $1, right, for every course sold. Fun times for me. But that's not why I have that course. But if I put it on sale at the same best available price that Udemy does, and I go out and promote it, then I get either 50% or 70% of what people pay, depending on how they come into the course. And so I would totally be happy to pop that up on discount, even if someone had paid full price, say 2 or 3 months earlier, because they've done a 30 days. And when people do the 30-day business blast, they set and achieve stretch income goals in 30 days. And it is an amazing program and it does a really brilliant job. And so because of that, with reasonable use, right, I wouldn't expect anyone would be particularly upset if they had bought it. I mean, most people don't buy it at full price. It's Udemy, let's be honest. But it's very rare that I would sell it at full price anyway. But even if I had made a full price sale, say 3 months earlier, and that the people who've bought it at full price, we've done some, live stuff together, or I can see that they've got really amazing results, they've really got value out of it, I wouldn't have a problem with discounting that. So can you see, like, it's not a like black and white rule. It's not a hard and fast thing. It's you've got to be really considered about what other people experiences are and how you want your audience to feel, right? We don't want to feel like we're punishing people for being early adopters. We don't want to punish people for buying something early and then if they'd waited, they would have got it cheaper. But we also consider that like amount of usage of time, yeah? So in a lot of instances when I'm working with takeoff and leverage and launch students and VIP clients on preparing and making decisions about what they're going to do for their sales, in a lot of instances, what we end up doing is creating a unique offer, right? So it's something that's not been offered before. It might be a unique way of structuring some VIP time. It might be a unique VIP package of some sort, one-to-one offer, or it could be like a brand new thing. And this is like part of the launch process, is having early adopters. We use the Black Friday sales quite often for programs that are starting in January in the new year. And so it's like a super early bird time. You're buying it in November, but it's not starting until January. And you're rewarded for being an early adopter with a really juicy discount. So you can think about like creating something unique. Think about like having a gap between when you sell and when you deliver. So I also know people who do websites and more VIP packages and that sort of thing. And what they do in their Black Friday sales is that's where they take on their last sales for the year. But they are to commence work together in the new year, in January or February. So I know a social media manager who does that. So they aren't taking on any new clients in December. They don't start any new clients in December. But what they do is they use the Black Friday sales time as a period to say, if you have been thinking about working with me, my books are closed for this year. But if you jump in and pay in advance during Black Friday to Cyber Monday, you can get your first month for half price, it would be to start in January or February. And so they get a big cash injection in, but they don't actually need to deliver on that until the new year. And so it's a way to keep that cash flow going over the holiday period without significantly increasing their workload over the holiday period. Particularly works for mums, and the two people I'm thinking of are both single mums as well, right? So they don't have the luxury of being able to do a lot of work over the school holidays here in Australia. And so but that doesn't mean that they don't get money coming in. So they can do that as like a bit of a cash flow management strategy as well. So there are quite a few things to consider there around whether you're going to participate in all the sales, some of the sales, do your own sales events, whatever it might be. And then the final thing to consider is, well, how do you plan for all of this? How do you make sure that you've got it all mapped out, that you're actually really clear on how you're going to pull this together? How do you make sure that you've been strategic about what's going to happen when? Are you going to, be aligned with your content, all of those sorts of things? And that's what I have a little template for you for. So I know that we're already well into quarter 4, but I would absolutely recommend that you have a plan for quarter 4. And if you don't have one, I actually have a quarterly planning template that you can have absolutely free. I'll link it in the show notes for today's episode, tashcorbin.com/366. And you can grab that, and it walks you through the process of just identifying what are your priorities, what does need to get done in the final quarter, what do you need to do. Maybe there's some preparations that you need to do ready for getting ready for the holidays, getting your content done in advance, all of those sorts of things. So if you're interested in checking that one out, all you need to do is go to the show notes of today's episode and we'll link to it for you there. And I will also have a link to the Ask Me Anything thread where you can ask any questions that you have about what we've covered today, anything to do with wrapping up, getting ready for the end of the year, planning, sales, being part of all of those end of year sales, that sort of thing. You can pop your questions in that thread, and I will be doing an Ask Me Anything live on socials. And we'll also have the link so that you can see all the details of when that is and how to come along and watch as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for this end of year preparation episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. And I cannot wait to see you in 2024 as well. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.